you know, in the end, it got to the point where I had to keep switching the bike off to find neutral when I stopped. You know, I had to, you know, if I was pulling up, or not up a junction, but if I was pulling up anywhere and I wanted to go into neutral, I basically had to switch the bike off, and then you could get it into neutral. Right, hello everybody. Yes, it's Two-Wheel Rider. I couldn't tell you how many times I've tried to do this little bit of video. It's been driving me mad. It's the last bit I need to do, which is the first bit of the video, but never mind. So, what are we doing today? Well, we're back out on the road, as you can see. It's quite an overcast day, but it's very nice. It's very warm. And this is a video I've been wanting to do for a while, but finally got around to doing it. It's our first sort of ride review and chat about the Moto Guzzi V7 Stornello 2. I think you have to put the 2 in there, it's quite important. So, as you may already know if you follow the channel, I bought this bike before my trip and I didn't really get any riding done on this bike until I got back, and I had to put another battery on it. Just a quick one, the battery in this is the same as the, what is it the same as? The Bonneville T100. So, just in case you can't find the battery under that Stornello designation, it's the same as the T100, because I had a spare T100 battery. Anyway, that's enough of that. So the thing about this bike, we had quite a difficult start to our relationship, let's say that, which you might be intrigued with the title of this video. I nearly got rid of this bike after 24 hours, and it was a difficult beginning to our relationship because of the way that it rode and some of the little quirks that it had, but I'd like to say that the relationship is now on a stable footing. We had some counselling. There was a little bit of fumbling around to begin with, you know, in private parts on this bike, but we come to an understanding, and we're now, you know, we're good, and so I think what we'll do to explain that a little bit more, we go somewhere to have a look at the bike and have a chat about it, and we do some riding and all the rest of it as we normally do. I think we'll head off to the church. So I've been to the church for a while, and we'll have a look at the lovely Stornello Moto Guzzi V7 Stornello 2. Come on, let's go and have a chat. Yeah, I've got this bit of video done. There we go. Little things, little wins. Right, let's go and have a chat about the bike. Come on. Alright, let's dribble on down to the church. Oh, looks quite busy. Never mind. Sure, we'll be fine. So here it is, the V7 Stornello, the Moto Guzzi. So just a little bit of background on this bike then. So it came out in 2017. It was a limited edition, so it's 1,000 bikes were produced. This one is number 642, so it's nothing particularly special in that rate. But they come with a certificate and, you know, with authenticity and all that sort of stuff. But the bits on this bike which are really quite nice, and I think which separate it from all the other V7s, apart from the fact it's a limited edition, there's a couple of really lovely features on here which I'd like to point out. So let's have a look at those now. So what does set this bike apart from your regular V7 of this period and later, really? Because there's not a great bit of difference apart from obviously the engine capacity in the later bikes. Well, firstly, obviously it's a one-off paint job. That's not, you know, hand painted. That is a sticker at the end of the day underneath the gel coat. But it is really lovely, really lovely. The white and the red, and it's harking back to the original Stornello that was made by Moto Guzzi back in the, was it the 60s, 50s, 60s. You've got the scrambler plates, which is very popular, isn't it, these days? So it's sort of on trend, isn't it, even from 2017. You've also got the same thing on the front, actually, the nice little plate on there, which looks a bit like one of those Elizabethan headdresses. A little bit when you look at it. Maybe I should put a number on there. I need to clear some of the flies off, that's for sure. One curious thing about the bike that I did notice was how flimsy the mudguard is. It's really flimsy, but you know, it's saving weight, isn't it? We got the black wheels, which is really nice. I've said before, if you kind of gold, then might as well have black. We've obviously got Brembos on there, which is rather nice. They're good sized Brembos. They look like twin pots on there, twin pot Brembos. I like the way they leave the stickers on. You got the that reminds me of the Agip oil company, but yeah, really cool that. And then you got the nice little touches like the Moto Guzzi, which is embroidered into there. But obviously the main feature of the bike, really, well, one of the main features of the bike is the 2-in-1 Arrow exhaust, which is only fitted for this bike. It's built specifically for this bike, and it's I'm not going to say it's a work of art, but it's what a great thing to do. You could have just kept it the same, couldn't you, as the original, just done the paint job. But no, they went full Monty on this and gave it a beautiful exhaust, and it's got a great sound. It's got a great sound. Let's start her up. Quite nice. It's still got the baffles in. I know people do take the baffles out of these, but I don't need to destroy that. Couldn't see the point in that. The other nice feature is the red frame. So you've got the red frame on here, I guess sort of powder coated frame, but that's rather lovely. And again, sets it apart from everything else, doesn't it? Really pretty. The other thing, which is the envy of all later Moto Guzzi's owners, is we still got the twin analog clocks, which is great, isn't it? And then you've got your warning lights up here. These two here, they're quite interesting. So you've got your ABS light, which obviously, like most bikes, will flash or come on until you pull away, then it comes off. Then you've got this little warning light here. And not that I've read the handbook, but I think that's very similar to Ducatis, where you get this things too, that it don't, it's not ready to be thrashed yet. Let it warm up. That's like the warm up period thing, and that will go out. Somebody might tell me different on that. But apart from that, it's just a really lovely bike. And then you've also got the classic shaft drive, which, why don't people put more shaft drives on their bikes? What I like about it, you got your fluting here, makes it a bit stronger. The swinging arm, well, the shaft bit, which is all part of the swinging arm, which is great. Yeah, what a lovely piece of kit. What a nice looking bike. And it is another one of those ones that you do look back at as you get off, and you like to get on it. Do you know what I mean? You look forward to actually getting on the bike, which is really nice. Ooh. So what was it then that was causing me so much grief? Because I can tell you now, after the ride down to Sykes, by the time I got home, I was absolutely knackered, because riding the bike had become a bit of a trial, really. And it was to do mainly with the clutch and the suspension as well. Because I'd had such a short ride on it before, doing that long ride really did become hard work. So what was the actual problem then? Well, the main thing was that the clutch itself, the actual bite point was, right, you had to get the lever all the way in, to get, not to get it into gear, but to change gear and all that sort of stuff. Where I like the clutch to be, pretty much at the top. But this is not, there's no real assistance on this clutch. The modern thing we have on a lot of bikes these days is the clutches are so light. I have no idea how they do that, but the clutches are incredibly light. This is old style. This is heavy clutch. This is showing its heritage, isn't it? And no sort of change to the clutch mechanism on the bike like this. But it's fine. So, but it was having an added problem, giving the bike an added problem, and that was trying to find neutral. And in the end, it got to the point where I had to keep switching the bike off to find neutral when I stopped. I had to, if I was pulling up, or not up a junction, but if I was pulling up anywhere and I wanted to go into neutral, I basically had to switch the bike off, and then you could get it into neutral. So that was the first problem, which became, you know, it's a real fag, that, and it's like, oh Jesus. The other problem I had was the suspension, which was just rock hard. You know, the first day that I rode it, the first time that I rode it properly when I got home, I can remember going over a bump, a little route that I quite often do around Curdford and those sort of areas, and I can remember going over this bump and my teeth bashing together. And it's like, whoa, that's unpleasant. And the road wasn't particularly bumpy. So, you know, the clutch thing came the day after, but that hard ride was the initial issue. So how did I solve these problems? So the clutch itself, you know, as you'll be seeing, it's a straightforward adjustment. You know, on the lever you've got the thread there which you can adjust. So once I started to adjust that and got the biting point where I wanted it. Now the easy way to set your biting point, if anybody wants to know, you don't need the bike running for that. Basically, get the bike in gear and then, you know, put some pressure on it to roll forward, and as you bring the clutch in you'll feel it release. As long as you just give yourself an extra little bit of play in there, it's fine, and that's all I needed to do. There was no further adjustment required after that, and that was very, very straightforward. It was, I would say that the bike was almost unrideable, you know, prior to that. I can adapt very quickly to the bikes and how they are, but you know, it's not something you want to live with, because it becomes not an enjoyable thing to actually go and ride the bike. So the clutch fix was very, very straightforward. But what it also did, it meant that the bike would go into neutral easy. So since I've done the clutch, I have no issue getting it into neutral. It's not as good as any bike I've ever had. So that improved the ride immeasurably. What about the suspension? So I think we better have a closer look at the suspension to see how all that operates, really. So the rear suspension, you've got this Moto Guzzi bi-turbo thing here. Yeah, I'm sure these are a reasonably good quality. This was the main adjustment. There were two adjustments I made on the rear. Was this for the damping and the actual spring tension, because this was way down here, so I've got this right back up, and it's just made the world of difference, really. This thing here, you sort of get the feeling that this is just for display purposes only. It doesn't seem to do much, really. You've got an Allen screw there, and you've got it sits on a big thread, but it doesn't seem to move or do anything. So yeah, someone might be able to tell me that makes a difference, but yeah, this was the main difference. Just get that onto a soft setting like that, and then change the spring rate, and that's immeasurably improved the rear. The other thing that I did on the bike was change the front tyre. The front tyre was it was the original tyre, you know, from 2016-17, so it had hardened off. It you know, that tyres just do, and it was rock hard. I had to have the MOT done straight away when I got the bike, and the MOT guy said, your tyre's legal, but it's rock hard and it's starting to degrade around the rim. So we put a new tyre on, and again that gave me that little extra bit of cushioning on the front, and that made a huge difference. So the tyre we actually fitted is the same as I've got on I had on the Honda, so the Bridgestone Batlax, great tyre, AX41. So really, really nice tyre that. So I've got experience of it, so I carry on using it. So where am I now with this bike? Well, let's go out on the ride, and we'll have a bit more of a chat about it there. All right, come on, let's do some riding. So from a riding experience then, once I'd got that suspension sorted, I thought I'd come down this sort of like fairly rutted track. It was much better. You know, if I'd have come down here before, you know, I'd have been spitting teeth, as it were. It would not have been a nice experience. You know, by the time I'd have got to the end of this track, I'd have got off and probably walked the rest of the way. But handling wise, the bike is actually pretty sharp. With that new tyre on the front, you know, gone sort of semi-scrambler style tyre with the Battlax. It's great. It's really, really great. You get a little bit of heat from the exhaust, and you know, it's a bit like the Harley in that respect. You know, the bike warms up and you can feel the heat. It'll be nicer in the spring rather than the height of summer, probably. But the engine on this bike is lovely. It's got a great deal of charm. I mean, you do get that sort of side-to-side motion with it, but it's got plenty of torque, and it's nice, and it handles. And with that, I'll put my lid down. With that adjustment to the rear suspension, it hunkers down when you go around bends now, which is really nice. And do you know what? It felt a little bit like when I took the BSA Gold Star out. It has a little bit of that feel in the rear suspension. That it sort of sits down, and it's nice. I quite like that. It's an unusual feeling, but it's really rather nice. It's a nice riding style that this gives you. We're on a Friday here, so the roads are pretty busy. You know, boy, do I miss the French roads. They were so empty when these roads are really busy. We're in sort of biking territory around here. I see a lot of bikes already this morning. I don't need to overtake this car because I want to turn left up here and do some country roads, smaller country roads. The advantage of these smaller country roads that they are actually nationals. Lovely, that engine is really nice. It's really, you can feel it. I mean, you can feel the pistons doing their job, which is rather nice. It gets that. It's a bit like listening to a supercharger whistling up. It's really nice. The suspension, yeah, it is still, you know, hard, shall we say, but it's controlled now. We've got some control backing into it. So there we are. So, you know, the ride is really, really nice. And it's actually a pleasure to get on the bike. I was really looking forward to getting on this. I've been riding the Harley the last couple of days. And amazingly, after getting off the Harley, this felt like a toy. It felt tiny, it felt really tiny. And it was turning quick and all the rest of it. I had to readjust myself. Yeah, I think the bike now is actually fantastic. The day after I did all the adjustments on the bike, I actually really fell in love with it, and I thought, oh, you know what, this is actually really nice. The only odd quirk you've got with these still, and it is actually common to these bikes in general, I think, from this period, is the little warm-up period. You've got to give it a couple of minutes to warm up, just to let all the oil circulate and all the rest of it. Because if you start it on like a modern bike, you start it and just ride off, this will conk out. It will just stall. You know, you do the throttle and it's good, but you know, you got to let it. There might be an update for the mapping on this, but you know, it's not a problem. It's just one thing you have to remember, and that's what makes the bike slightly quirky. I'm glad that I persevered. I'm glad I took the time just to do those adjustments on it, because it's actually a really, really fabulous bike, and it's one of those bikes that a lot of people come up and look at. Whether, I don't know, I'm not sure whether they think it's just really old or they just love the look of it, because I think it is such a stylish bike. It is a really pretty bike with that arrow exhaust and the red frame and the lovely white paintwork. You know, it really is stunning. But there we are. So the V7 Stornello 2. You know, quite a rare bike. I think there's only 80 came to the UK or were scheduled for the UK, but I think only 40 are registered apparently. I'm not sure whether that's true. So it makes it quite a rare bike. So you're not going to put up to the lights and somebody else is going to be there, which is quite nice, isn't it, really? but I shall continue to enjoy riding this bike. This is going to be my another Sunday afternoon thrash about bike, but it's really nice, really nice. So I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll do some more stuff with the Stornello over the time. But there we are. Right, I'll see you all in the next episode, everybody. Take care and look after yourself. Ride safe, everybody.